people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Over the weekend, Naomi Valle, the younger sister of three-division champion Yokasta Valle, who's very well known in her native Costa Rica, was announced as the winner of the Costa Rican version of Dancing with the Stars, and this is actually a lot more relevant to her boxing career than it appears on the surface. So she's already getting a touch of the green because of her older sister and how accomplished and well-known she is in Costa Rica, so much so she got to participate in their version of Dancing with the Stars. And we often talk about how beloved Yokasta Valle is in her native Costa Rica and how whenever she fights there, she draws good-sized crowds. This is having a positive effect on her younger sister Naomi Valle, 20 years old, 13-0 with 9 KOs. And remember what the dynamic of these shows is. Shows like Dancing with the Stars. You have to call to cast your vote. The audience that takes in a Dancing with the Stars in America, or in this instance, Costa Rica, well, these are not necessarily boxing fans. It's not necessarily the same demo. So a good number of those individuals watching the show may have been exposed to Naomi Valle for the very first time. And that should be every boxer's goal. To not just be known in the boxing sphere within it, but outside of it as well, to reach that casual audience. An appearance on a show like this, let alone winning it. And the only way you win is if the viewers vote for you. This will really help to amplify Naomi Valle's profile in the Costa Rican boxing scene as her career progresses. A very productive year for the youngster, who not only made an appearance on this contest and won, but managed to fight 4 times this calendar year. Once in April, again in June, then again in July, then again this past November. Naomi Valle has campaigned anywhere in between atom weight, minimum weight, and light flyweight. Currently, there are world title opportunities in the minimum weight division where her older sister Yokasta currently campaigns and reigns as WBC champion. At least 2. Yokasta Valle's got the WBC title. Very soon, Germany's Sarah Borman will be fighting for the WBO, and I think she's going to win it. That would leave both the WBA and IBF titles that Naomi could end up fighting for, having debuted as a professional in July of 2022, a little over 2 years ago. It's been a very productive run for her so far. She's already fought 13 times. She already has more of a profile than most 13-0 fighters in professional boxing, thanks to her older sister and this appearance on Dancing with the Stars. Her career is off to a fantastic start. The Valle sisters. Be surprised how many fighting families there are in the sport of women's boxing. The Juarez sisters, Barbie Juarez and Lulu Juarez. Lourdes. The Fighting Bermuda sisters, Daniela, Evelyn, Roxana, Kenya Enriquez, and Tania Alvarez, their sisters. And of course, Yokasta and Naomi. Now, Yokasta Valle just so happens to be promoted by Golden Boy Promotions here in the United States. In her own neck of the woods, she promotes her own shows, but in America, she's promoted by Golden Boy. And because of that relationship, it's conceivable that if Naomi plays her cards right and progresses the way that she needs to, maybe she can get something going with Golden Boy Promotions here in America, so that she can box in her native Costa Rica and the United States simultaneously, just like her older sister. Seeing her in action, she really is a mirror image of Yokasta, just a younger version of her. And a very good influence, if I do say so myself. Yokasta is great with people. She gives off good energy, knows how to present herself, and she's very accomplished under the hot lights. She's a 3-division champion. If any of that stuff rubs off on Naomi, she's gonna have a hell of a career because she's off to a fantastic start. I think we have a star in Naomi Valle. I think that's what we're looking at. Now, she can try to fight for a title in the minimum weight division where her older sister campaigns, or she can see about fighting for one in the light flyweight division. It might be a little hard to win one there. Might be a little harder and take a little longer because there are two unified champions there, and they're both experienced. But so far, so good in the young budding career of Naomi Valle. She's on the right track. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, continued reactions to the Riyadh Season Super Show in February, where it was confirmed WBC middleweight champion Carlos Adames will indeed be facing unbeaten Hamza Sheeraz in defense of the green and gold title. Though before it came to that, Carlos Adames was taking to his social media claiming that he had sent email correspondence to unified champion Janibek for a fight, most of which I don't believe. I don't buy it. Earlier today, Oscar de la Coca took to his social media and said, "Name 5 ducks today," to which Carlos Adames answered, "Janibek ducked." Janibek Alimkhanalai ducked to me, and I don't buy it. I don't believe it. Mostly because the whole time that Carlos was claiming he sent Janibek email correspondence for a fight, he was in fact negotiating with Hamza Sheeraz. We know that now. Fights in the sport of boxing are not often made overnight. It usually takes some weeks, and in some instances, some months, that if you are now officially announcing a Hamza Sheeraz fight, well, you didn't reach a deal yesterday. The rumors about a Carlos Adames versus Hamza Sheeraz fight have been around just about as long as Carlos's claim that he sent Janibek email correspondence. Those two things were happening at the same time. But put your thinking caps on, kids. Which fight do you think pays Carlos Adames more money? A unification match with Janibek Alimkhanalai, or a Hamza Sheeraz fight for a big Saudi bag in Saudi Arabia? Which one do you think pays more? The Sheeraz fight. So when you say that you sent email correspondence to Janibek Alimkhanalai for a fight, I'm left wondering, who was going to pay for the fight? The PBC? And what were they going to pay for the fight? Certainly not what you stand to make boxing Hamza Sheeraz in Saudi. And if you were negotiating the both of those fights at the same time, well, it would seem like a no-brainer that you're going to go with the Hamza Sheeraz fight over the Janibek Alimkhanalai fight. If you were ever actually interested in doing that fight, I don't think he was. I think it's all smoke and mirrors. The Janibek Alimkhanalai fight, unification match that it might be, it's not worth millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. Whereas this fight with Hamza, that might get you 1 or 2. Maybe more. Enough that you wouldn't have spent any time on a Janibek Alimkhanalai fight since you don't stand to make anywhere near the same money. No, you would prioritize the Hamza Sheeraz fight, which you did. That's who he was going to fight all along. And I'm not mad about it. I like the fight. I'm just saying I don't believe you when you say Janibek ducked you. That's all I'm saying. That when it comes to all of this Janibek duck me talk, yeah, that's just a load of bullshit. Now, he's fighting Hamza. Unbeaten Hamza Sheeraz at sports professional record at 21 wins with no losses, no draws, 17 knockouts. To Carlos Adames, who sports professional record of 24 wins with 1 loss, no draws, 18 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 25 professional bouts. His lone defeat came at the hands of Brazil's own Patrick Teixeira several years and several fights ago. Needless to say, he has since rebounded off that loss, and he is currently on a 6-fight winning streak, though the last 2 or 3 years, there has been a lag, a lull in his activity. He only fought once in 2022, only fought once in 2023, and he only fought once this year. And what was a lackluster showing, a forgettable fight with Terrell Gausha in June. Now he's fighting Hamza, who comparatively has a lot more momentum going into this fight. What we've seen so far, what he did in the Mo Williams fight, and what he just did in the Tyler Denny fight. He's a big guy, good boxer, strong puncher, could be the future of the middleweight division. And if I'm being honest, the middleweight division would be a lot better off if Hamza had the green and gold belt than if Carlos keeps it. Damn. Hamza has knocked out the last 15 fighters he's fought. Stop the last 14 or 15 guys that he's fought. It's been a while since Hamza went to a points decision. I feel like the edge in power, it's gotta go to Hamza. Who punches harder? I think Hamza Sheeraz punches harder than Carlos Adames, but Carlos is the more seasoned professional, the more experienced fighter.
With the better resume, having fought the better fighters.
Patrick Teixeira, Sergey Derevyanchenko, a former champion in Julian Williams, and a former U.S. Olympian in Terrell Gausha. It is safe to say that Carlos has the more robust resume of the two.
Even though he's lacking momentum,
He has fought the comparatively better fighters. Does a bit of switch hitting, fights orthodox, fights southpaw, perhaps not on the level of a Terence Crawford. He's not as good a switch hitter as Terence Crawford, but he has shown in the past he can switch, and that can give his opponents a lot of problems. Will it give Hamza problems?
Hamza's a big boy.
Standing in at 6'3" with a 75-inch wingspan in the middleweight division, he's basically a giant.
Knows how to manage the distance. He's not one of these tall guys that gives up his height to trade punches mid-range to inside, like what you see from Brandon Figueroa or Sebastian Fundora.
Hamza doesn't do that. He works off the jab, sets up the backhand really well, and it's a devastating backhand. If he can land it on Carlos, I think he can get him out of there. But this is a 50-50 fight to me.
Yeah, I think Hamza can hurt Carlos, but I also think Carlos can hurt Hamza. Ammo Williams did a couple of times when Hamza fought him. Ammo Williams rattled his cage.
So Carlos Adames can rattle his cage. This to me looks like a 50-50 pick'em fight.
Pick'em fight!
I love those, where the answer and the outcome is not quite clear, and you have to see it to believe it. You have to see it to find out. The middleweight division would be a lot better off if Hamza Sheeraz won the fight.
Sheeraz!
But it's not a foregone conclusion that he does, and you might want him to. I might agree.
The middleweight division needs him to.
But it's up to him to do it, him and Ricky Funes, to devise the strategy for what is a 50-50 fight. A pick'em fight.
Pick'em fight!
On what is a magnificent show brought to us by His Excellency. Elsewhere on the card, where the WBC interim heavyweight title will be on the line as Zhang faces unbeaten Agit Kabayel.
They both jointly had to leave Martin Bakole high and dry to get to this point, but being honest, I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at all.
The heavyweight 12-rounder between Zhang and Agit Kabayel, slated for the huge February 22nd card in Saudi, will be for the WBC interim strap. Though plenty would argue that an interim champion is not necessary because the WBC heavyweight champion Oleksandr Usyk remains active and will defend the belt against Tyson Fury later on this month, the head of the sanctioning body, Mauricio Suleiman, told Sky that the matchup will keep them active and keep the division having the best fights possible.
And keep you collecting sanctioning fees from big Riyadh season shows.
Now, he explained further that the World Boxing Council had received a formal request to sanction such a fight for the WBC interim title.
They asked for it.
Why? Because we've done everything possible for the past several years to reach the ultimate great heights in each weight category, especially at heavyweight. All this time we have been perfectly clear and transparent that the WBC will not impose any mandatory that goes against having the ultimate undisputed champion because they're fighting the best available. There's no better fight than Usyk versus Fury. So with that fight happening and then possibilities for the future, we have accepted the number 2 and number 3 to fight for the interim title. The 32-year-old Agit Kabayel, 25-0 with 17 KOs, has seen his stock rise in the last 12 months, with upset victories over a then unbeaten Arslanbek Makhmudov and then unbeaten Frankie Sanchez. Whereas Zhang, 41, returned to form in June when he knocked out Deontay Wilder 6 months after being outpointed by Joseph Parker. All 4 bouts took place in Saudi Arabia, which is fast becoming the proving ground to separate the contenders from the pretenders.
But that's not all.
What they're now saying is that whoever wins this fight, Anthony Joshua will be eligible to challenge the winner and challenge for the WBC interim title. By now we all know that Anthony chose to forego a rematch with Daniel Dubois, who is now facing a common opponent between them in Joseph Parker.
That February would have been too quick a turnaround, and that they're not going to get Anthony back out there until either the spring or the summer, something like that.
Facing the winner of this fight and beating the winner of this fight, of course, is a credible scalp and a step in the direction of becoming a 3-time heavyweight champion, which, at least up until Daniel knocked him out, was Anthony Joshua's goal. He wanted to become a 3-time heavyweight champion. If he still does, the opportunity is there.
But being honest, it'll take more than a win over Zhang or a win over Agit Kabayel for Anthony to restore trust, for Anthony to restore faith in him. The way that he lost to Daniel Dubois, it was mortifying. It was actually hard to watch.
And that was a fight that he was supposed to be able to win. He was heavily favored to by the odds makers.
You can't win the fights that you're favored to win. How are you going to win the others?
Yeah, I'm a boxing fan, so of course, I would like to see Anthony Joshua fight the winner of this fight. It's a good fight, it's a credible scalp, and it gets him on the right track. But it'll take more than just that to restore trust in him. Before we get there, Agit Kabayel and Zhang have to settle up with each other. Zhang, who sports a professional record of 27 wins with 2 losses, 1 draw, 22 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 30 professional bouts, 41 years old. The significantly bigger guy of the big guys of the two.
6'6" with an 80-inch wingspan.
To a more moderately sized Agit Kabayel that stands in at about 6'3", also with an 80-inch wingspan, 25-0 with 17 KOs. That kind of reach with his brand of movement is a part of what makes him so tricky, staying on his toes, bouncing around, moving in and out, all the while touching you upstairs, touching you downstairs.
To the body, to the head.
As stated, both Agit Kabayel and Zhang had to leave Martin Bakole high and dry to get to this point, but I'm not angry about it because the fight between them is a good fight, and it's on a Riyadh season show, so that's likely why they did it, because they stand to make more money boxing in Saudi than they would boxing Martin.
The fight with Martin Bakole, was supposed to be an IBF final eliminator, but I get the sense that Turkey wasn't going to pay for that one.
It just feels like if he were going to pay for that one, whether it's Bakole versus Zhang or Bakole versus Kabayel, then that's what we would have got. But because he wasn't going to, the fighters went in a different direction. It's neither here nor there because the fight between them is made, and I like the fight. I'm edging it to Agit Kabayel.
Zhang, 41 years old, is a very dangerous man in the early goings of a fight. First 4 or 5 rounds, but as a fight progresses, his output dissipates.
That is how Joseph Parker was able to survive him and survive 2 very hard knockdowns, picked himself up 2 times, went on to win a points decision by the skin of his teeth, but that's why, because as a fight progresses, Zhang don't throw that much.
Chalk it up to his size and his age.
Now, he's very strong, he's physically strong, and he's a talented counterpuncher.
Yeah, if you're dumb enough to stand right in front of him.
That is not Agit Kabayel. As stated, what Agit Kabayel lacks in size, he makes up for in range of motion and mobility, staying on his toes, bouncing in and out, bouncing around, throwing punches all the while.
That's what I noticed about him almost immediately back in 2017 when he fought Derek Chisora. A victory over Derek that I think has aged very well over the years, and that's when I noticed this guy's pretty good.
It's what stands out about Agit Kabayel, his movement, and that's what I think is going to trouble Zhang in this fight. He's not going to have a clear target.
Guy moving around that much, he's already a small target.
You've already got to punch down to hit him, and if he keeps moving around and you keep missing, that's going to wear on your energy reserves. That's going to make you tired.
Zhang is the stronger puncher.
But I think they can both hurt each other. Zhang may have more single punching power, but you have to land. And as much as this guy moves, that's going to be tough.